Well, everybody, welcome back once again to JJ's PC Builds. You know what this is, JJ with you once again. And if it's your first time here, make sure you subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, welcome to the family. Welcome to JJ's PC Builds. And my veteran subscribers, as always, much love to you for all that you do. Help them support the channel. Today, we're kind of pressed for time because it seems that the person I'm giving this computer to is going to be here on Sunday. So today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be repasting the right here. I keep forgetting that. I know. I keep forgetting, the AIO pump block top. It's early in the morning here, so give me a moment to get my marbles together. But I see there's going to might be a little bit of a heating issue between the pump and the processor. So when I tested it the other day, I was looking at it and I stress tested it, and I was thinking, okay, it's going up to 84, 85 degrees. So I want to make sure that it's properly thermal pasted. But make sure you get your drinking snacks, by the way. If you're in the morning time, make sure you get your coffee and donuts. You know how y'all like coffee and donuts. Everybody's got to have them. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be thermal pasting with some MX4 thermal compound. MX4. This is Arctic MX4. They do make Arctic MX6. Now, from what I'm hearing on testing and everything else, they say MX6 is better than MX4. But I like using the MX4 because it's cheap from Amazon. You can get a couple tubes of it and it'll last you a long time. I mean, one tube will last you about 3 thermal pastings. So, I mean, if you do 2 to 3 years, you figure one tube for $9, and you figure you'll get about with one computer, you'll get about 8-9 years with one computer with the thermal paste. I doubt this will last that long. It probably will. You never know. So, but if you do it right, it should last you about 8-9 years. Okay, one tube should. But if it doesn't, then you're over pasting and then you're doing it wrong. So let me go ahead and get everybody set up really quick. Move the microphone out of the way. Move this keyboard up and out of the way so we can move the case right here, and I can bring the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. Alrighty. This is a very heavy case. Not heavy, but it's heavy enough. It's big paperweight right now. I gotta be very careful because the back's not on it completely. So let's make sure we're recording too. Yeah, we're recording. Okay, now let me bring the camera down a little bit so you can see kind of what I'm doing here. So, get my screwdriver. Go in an opposite value. Go in the next pattern when you're loosening this up. And do remind you, if you're using AM4 socket, I'm going to warn you, do not pull it directly off. The reason is if you pull this directly off, what'll happen is that you'll end up pulling the processor out of the socket. Not a lot of people talk about that, about the processor coming out of the socket. I've done it a couple times myself, so I just want to give you a forewarning. If you want bent pins and stuff like that, you're going to heed that warning. So what I'm doing is I'm jiggling it. These are good knurled thumb screws. I use the screwdrivers because my fingers are fat, and I want to make sure that, taking these off, that I'm being very, very careful doing this. And these come completely off. These deep cool ones, these are not the ones where they lay in the socket, neither. That would have been nice to get those, but that means they would have been male, not female. So you very carefully, if you're hearing this, very carefully remove it up out of the socket. Now I can see that the thermal paste melted down. And we're kind of caught. I guess the graphics card caught the pump. Either that or the pump's tied somewhere else that I don't realize. No, oh boy, this is going to be a messy one. Okay. Now, to avoid a mess, I'm going to put this underneath here to prop it up. There. Now, I propped it up for that reasoning. Now, let's see. Let's find my spatula. Everybody seems to be worried about the thermal compound that's on there. And I see a lot of people, and what they do is, oh geez, can't find a spatula. Oh my goodness. I lost my spatula somewhere. Okay, so what I see happening is that they wipe off the thermal paste because it's around the edges and stuff like that. You can get it away from around the edges, that's fine. But I just think I see a lot of wasted thermal paste. I really do. If it's recent and it's not old, like let's say it's within a couple days, I can't see wasting thermal paste like that. And this is within a couple days, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to add to what I have here and find some way to spread it. And this way I can, save whatever thermal paste was there. So, I know you guys are going to say, well, that's kind of dirty doing it like that and this and that, I see the point, but I also too see the point of that, you know, when you apply thermal paste, okay, when you apply thermal paste, that usually this is what everybody misses is they apply it to one side. They apply it to one side of they apply it to the processor and they put dabs of it on there. Okay. Instead of sinking and soaking it into, the processor side and fully covering the processor. But also too that they waste a little bit of amount of the thermal paste by not putting it on the other side. So if you spread it into one side and you spread it evenly and thinly to one side, and I've done this with my processors many of times. Okay, I would take the excess amount and wipe it into the other side to fully saturate both sides, giving it a layer on both sides at the same time, and then squishing it together as one. I know you all say, well, you shouldn't do that and this and that. Well, if you're trying to make sure that you're covering your bases when it comes to the when it comes to the processor and it comes to the pump, or if you're using an air cooler, same principle. You're applying it to the air cooler and you're applying it to the processor, or the pump and the processor. So you're covering with a thin layer on both sides. Because, if you go and buy the pads, okay, this was the thing. You go buy the pads, what are they, 1 millimeter pads? Okay, thermal paste is less than 1 millimeter. Okay, but it fills in the cracks and crevices that will transfer, heat through those little pores. So if you push it into the pores and you push it all the way around and you make sure it matches evenly with your pump, and then you just push down on your pump evenly, like you push on the four corners of your pump, you push evenly, then it spreads it and pushes it flatter, but you got compound that you pushed into the pores of the pump side and you pushed it into the pores of the processor side. So now you done covered your bases to make sure that it's spreaded evenly between the pump and between the processor and the pump. So by doing that, now I am assured that the thermal paste is fully saturated the pump and it's fully saturated the processor. So this means there's a complete layer around both. And then I'm going to hear everybody say, well, it's going to make a mess, it's going to squeeze out and this and that. Well, if you apply it correctly and you apply a thin layer on both sides without having, excess, and they give you little spatulas with their thermal paste, I don't foresee having squeeze out that much. I rarely get squeeze out on mine. I mean, just maybe a little dab, but nothing really big. but you want it to form a suction between the processor and your pump in order for it to thermal transfer the heat from point A to point B. And I just can't believe I just dropped that in there like that. So you want it to be able to transfer the heat between point A and point B, but you can't do that if it's not saturated properly. So it makes more sense to take that extra minute as I find the knurl screw and wherever I put it. So it takes that extra minute to do both sides and to cover both sides instead of just covering one side. You got to be very careful. If you drop something heavy down on this motherboard, you can take and dislodge those capacitors and break them very easily if you're not careful. Me, I know all this. So, I kind of made that boober and dropped it. This is not the easiest part to do right here. Because behind the hoses is one screw. One of the lockdown screws. Okay, so. And I got some new batteries for my flashlight too, and just let y'all know that. It seems that, the batteries were like at 0.35 volts per battery. I was like, well, it's time to change them, don't you think? Takes 3 batteries, but in time I'll get one of those plug-in rechargeables. So now what I'm doing is I'm locking down the pump to the motherboard. And it doesn't have to be tight. Just has to be tight enough. Now I'll make sure I get some glass cleaner and clean that up. Just has to be tight enough to where it doesn't wiggle. So it's not wiggling, so that's a plus. I don't foresee it wiggling, and it looks pretty good. Now that we've done that, now it's time to get the M.2 in its slot. But we have to remove the graphics card. I don't want to have any mistakes or anything else. I really don't. So I'm taking my time. And if this video goes long, so what? I know a lot of people are saying, well, I'm going to watch it 20 minutes. Well, you know what? If you don't want to watch my video for longer than 20 minutes, then go to somebody else's channel. Okay? You don't want to watch my video for 20 minutes, then go to somebody else's channel and watch their videos for 20 minutes. My videos take a long time because for the simple fact, I'm not missing any information, that people, when I go to watch other people's videos, they do them 10, 20-minute videos, and they're telling you half the information. They're giving you half the information. That's the reason why my videos take longer, is because I want to make sure you get all the information. There is a reason. So if you don't want to watch my videos and because they're an hour long, then go to somebody else's channel. I can care less. I had a couple people tell me, well, make your video shorter, make your video shorter. I tried that. Nobody watches them. I make them longer and everybody watches them. So what do you think I'm doing? Point, case in point. So now this takes a little bit of wiggling effort to get these two out of here. So we'll put them off to the side. That's the power connectors that go right here. And also too, on Saturday, when we have the live video, we're going to have a talk about NVIDIA. They got a little bit of things cooking at NVIDIA, so make sure you stick around to get my thoughts on that, because there's some things that I'm hearing that are not good. But I can tell you, as far as the hardware I have for them right now, it's not that bad. I mean, but foreseeable future when it comes to a lot of things, foreseeable future when it comes to these GPU makers and, you know, motherboard makers and processor makers and, you know, the whole PC line. It's not looking promising, I can tell you that much. There's too much misconception, too much lies. And there we go. Graphics card is now removed. Let's be very careful putting that down where it needs to go. And we're going to put in a fresh M.2. Fresh M.2. I want to make sure I got the right ones. Okay, so that goes right there. And we got a fresh M.2 right here. There. Fresh. Okay. Now the other one I put into my PC. And we'll be going more in depth in that later on down the road. But for right now, I just opened it up. Fresh M.2. And we're going to get ready to install this. This right here. This bad boy. Fresh out of the package. Fresh out of the package. Do not lose this packing. Okay. Case in point. Do not lose the packing. There's something I didn't realize about the packing that I just needed to point this out. Because when you pull out the M.2, right? Be very careful pulling this M.2 out. There's a little crease right here. Okay, now, I'm going to put that right down here where it doesn't get messed with. Now, right here underneath is a book. Now, it's a sealed book. Sealed book right there. So, make sure you go through the book. There's more to this drive than you think. I think they got something for Adobe on here as well that you can download for, I guess, for free or something. So, case in point, never throw the case away. Never throw it away. Always keep the case for 5 years, because with Samsung, they give you on the back. I'll make sure you guys can read that right here. 5-year limited warranty. Never throw your case away. Never. You got a 5-year warranty on the damn thing. You want to keep it protected, and you protecting your interest, especially if you spend $100 on it. You know, kind of put it in a safe place, nice, safe, cool place where it's not going to get messed with. Put it into a plastic baggie or a vacuum seal bag. Keep the case nice looking, and that way If you ever have any problems with your M.2, you can send it back to the company and say, guess what? Here you go. Case and all. Fix it. You know. So you tell them, hey, I want it fixed. You know, case in point. They have to fix it. I mean, they can't tell you, well, it's not under warranty and this and that shit. If you put it in right in your system and it crashes because of memory errors or something, that's their fault. They sent you a defective product. You know, you're not the one that builds these products. Do remember this. You are not the one that builds these products. They build these products to sell to you. And if it's not meeting up to specifications, when you test it, take it out, send it back to them. RMA the frickin' thing. If you don't, then you're going to be stuck with the bum drive. Many of years I've done that with regular hard drives. Never sent them back. So, when you get a pile of them and you never send them back to get them fixed, then you just end up throwing them away. Right now, I'm unscrewing the heat spreader for this M.2. That's another thing I wanted to talk to you all about. The fallacy, and I'm going to say, because here's the heat spreader right here. So, let's see. Yeah. Sit tight. I got to get the box. The box has the mounting gear for this. So, I got to get the mounting gear. Oh my God. One of these days I'll get it right, and when I make the video, I'll be able to make the video without having to jump around and get something. So, I'm just going to let the video run. I'm not going to take and shut off the video because I got to jump out and get a screw or two, or lose my screws, or get a screw loose. I know you guys are having a hard time hearing me. So, if you got a screw loose, then you better go find it. Alrighty. Nothing else in the box that I need. Nothing else. And don't worry about the Wi-Fi. I'll connect that before I give it to them. Which is not going to really matter anyway, because they're not going to be using the Wi-Fi. So, okay. I know you guys are going to have a hard time seeing this, but in your M.2 slots, they give you three open holes on the motherboard. They're 3 different sizes. Okay. The 2080 size is the 3rd size down, away from the socket. So, you take your little thumb screw, screw it in evenly in the motherboard so you don't strip out the threads. Only put it in finger tight. It's where I see everybody using a tool to put this in. And you only need to make this finger tight because the threads are fine threaded. You don't need to take and, manhandle it. Just need to screw it in to where it becomes finger tight. You take this right here. See the notch? You line it up with the notch that's on the socket in the motherboard. And after so, in an angle, then the last thing you do is you're going to take this baby screw and you're going to push down after you got it into the socket and lock it into the the standoff that you just put in there. So this is the hard spot. If you got like a number one Phillips, it'd be best if you used a number one Phillips with the magnetic tip. I know I've said this, don't use magnetic stuff in there, which these are not magnetic tips. I put it in manually. See, took it out of there and screwed it in manually. I don't like putting things in here that are magnetic because I always have the fear that it'll screw the drives up. And that's it. That screw only has to go down into that standoff to hold that M.2 in there evenly. You don't need to have it having tons of pressure and everything else. You really don't. And I got a peely. Look at this. You get a peely here. So you'll take and peel this off, this protective cover. They put this on here for the simple fact it's got a sticky back to it. So you peel it off. Make sure you got that in hand and nothing on there. And then you put it back in as you took it out. So however you took this spreader out is how you put it back in. And try not to touch the back. Try not to touch the sticky part. Because that's supposed to stick to the M.2. This is the hard part. This is the hard part. Because they don't have an insert to where you can line it up with the hole. Some motherboards won't. Whoa. Okay, that looks better. Finger tight. You do not need this any tighter than finger tight. And always double check and go back and look through and see if when you moved your pump, make sure all your wiring's back to where it needs to be. Okay. Once your M.2 is installed, that's half the battle. Now, in the BIOS, it should automatically be enabled. it should automatically detect the new M.2 that you have in your drive. So now we put the graphics card back in. Now that we removed it, we put it back in. The same way we removed it. Always be careful. Never put your hands on your fans. Mistake everybody makes. One mistake everybody makes is see a balance. Now looks like it clipped in. Okay. One mistake everybody makes is how they break their fans is the simple fact of this. They sit there and when they put it in, they press down on the blades of the fans. And then over time of doing that will cripple the fan blades. And then they break fan blades and everything else by removal and installation and everything else other than grabbing it by the part that's plastic. I always see that mistake. It's always the same song and dance. And then they come to me and says, "Oh, my fan blades are broke." You know, your fan blades are broke because guess what? You didn't do it right. You grabbed it in the wrong spot. You can't expect it to work if you grab it in the wrong spot. I'm only making this stuff finger tight, guys. I'm not wrenching it on because then you'll start stripping threads off of those screws or the screw holes. And then you'll be looking at yourself like you're, oh my God, I can't believe I got to replace my case because the screw holes are stripped. I don't know how many times I've seen that too. Many a times. Screw holes get stripped. Not being careful, removing and replacing, and I know there's one mistake I made on this case, and that's the simple fact of the fan blades and where I put these wires for the fan blades. So I've since corrected that, and now it doesn't make that noise. Okay. I always love to hear the clicks. I always love to hear that click. That tells me that I got these in the correct spots. And that's the thing too. I can't understand why NVIDIA puts them those 16-pin connectors on there. And I can't believe they put it on the 4070 Super. Now the 4070, they didn't have but the 8-pin connector. But let's see. That looks good. M.2's in. Thermal pasted. Get this light out of my way. Take my drink cup, move it over to the other side. Make sure all my wiring's out of the way. Get this garbage out of here. The thing is this. If you take your time and you're not in a rush, what'll happen is, here, let me point you guys up. Okay, you take your time, you don't rush things, you'll get it built. If you noticed, the first stream, second stream, third stream, and 2 recorded videos all on this. How many hours? 16, 17 hours. And that's not including putting in the operating system fully from scratch. You know, to do a PC will take you at least 2 or 3 days. That's if you do it at 12 hours a day. You can do it in 2 to 3 days. But this is a process that's been going 5-6 days. This is going to be a week build. It'll take me a week to, get it all square one. So if you made it to the end of that, and I do appreciate you making it to the end of that, I wanted to show you the fact of thermal pasting and putting in an M.2 drive. That's for this build right here, but there's more to come with this. But that'll be on Saturday, so you have to stick around for that. It's going to be a live video, so do stick around. But anyway, if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, welcome to the family. Welcome to JJ's PC Builds. And my veteran subscribers, as always, much love to you for all that you do. Help them support the channel. But until next time and the next video, this is JJ on JJ's PC Builds. We will see you on the next one.